everyone. My name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and we are reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 14, Episode 4. All the couples have been married, and it's time for the honeymoon. Before we get started with this review, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it everywhere with all mass watchers. It'd be so great. Thank you so much for your support. So let's get into it. First, we're going to start off with Noi and Steve. Thought it was really cute. The wedding night, he proposed to her with the ring pop. It's a little joke. You see where they are really coming together, team cuddles. They're cuddling and having a good time, enjoying each other in the honeymoon suite and taking it slow, even though Steve is saying, you know, he really would want to consummate the marriage, but, you know, he's going to take his time to do so if Noi is willing to, if that's what Noi wants. He served her breakfast in bed the next day and then did report that they did not consummate the marriage, and he did seem a little bummed about that. So time will tell how things progress there. Noi meets Steve's father and mother, and, you know, they appear to be very supportive and very respectful of the union, which it's great to see. Now, Steve's father described Steve as a vagabond, and I said, oh no, this isn't good. My hopes and dreams for this couple are crashing. I really am concerned about how that's going to play out, especially with Noi and her family and their history. And we see that as Steve meets Noi's family, and she had her family and friends, and he did not have any right answers. You know, her brother, who was Sriracha at the family gathering, was like, I know you did your Eat, Pray, Love thing, but what's going on? And Steve had no answers. He had no direct answers about what his plans are for showing up financially for Noi. And Mom was like, well, if you're going to have children, then you need to have a job. And we got silence. So I don't know if that was editing, if that's really what happened, but I'm concerned about that. And they meet up later to kind of talk about it and discuss it. And Steve is still kind of in a place where he's like, well, you know, we'll talk about, you know, the if and when I'm going to get a full job. And I'm like, oh no, this isn't good. This isn't good. Steve's going to have to understand that, especially with Noi's family history of being refugees and coming and having hard work and building a foundation for their family, they value work. And that's a part of the fabric of their family. And the fact that it seems that he thinks work is like maybe something you do as a hobby. I don't know. I don't know what his ideas are about work, you know, but it doesn't seem like he's interested. And it has freelance work, but isn't giving Noi a lot of information, a lot of detail about his income. And so I'm like, freelance work, you can do contract work and do it well, but he needs to give her some security, or she's going to feel very out in the wind. Noi seems to want to build a family. She's going to need a foundation. She's going to need benefits, maternity leave. She's going to need some support from Steve, benefits. You know, she's going to need all of that to be able to build that family. And if he is saying if he's going to get a full-time job, that's going to be a potential concern for this couple. We do see that they have fun on the honeymoon and things are going well for them. And Noi, she says she's, you know, feeling like she is falling for Steve. So I'm really concerned about that, her getting her feelings connected, and they haven't talked about money. So I'm hoping off camera they've talked about money before her feelings have have jumped in, and so they can have that foundation in their relationship. They're on a balcony at the honeymoon, and she is afraid of heights. And then Steve says, well, we need to go parasailing, we need to do this. And I'm like, did you just hear her say she's afraid of heights? So hopefully they'll find some things to do to meet each other in the middle, to have fun in Puerto Rico. So that's Steve and Noi. We'll see what happens about this financial situation. I really feel that once Steve gets to know Noi, that hopefully he'll be able to provide that communication that she needs in order to feel safe in the relationship. And I'm also hoping that Noi will be able to use her voice to tell Steve what she needs, so that their relationship can continue to move in the right direction, because it really seems like they're our only hope for this season. I'm really hoping also that Steve will meet her need, that, once Noi communicates that her needs, her financial expectations and needs in a husband, that he will meet her need, and this won't be a continual issue in their marriage, going forward. So we shall see. So next we have Jasmina and Michael. So Michael states that he is seeing some signs that Jasmina can be the wife that he wants. And I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know. It seems like he's still trying to figure out, am I going to keep her? Like, that's a question in his mind. Michael, while they're in the bed and they're getting ready to go to sleep, we see where he brings up his conversation with the stepfather. I thought it was interesting timing. I just thought that was really interesting timing. And he said, your stepfather said to not let you boss me around. And, Jasmina starts laughing, and she's like, oh, and he thinks I'm bossy. And she's like, I'm not bossy. I was in a relationship with a man who didn't want to argue with me. And it's like, what? I guess I'm like, why would you want an argument? Now, I know conflict is a part of a relationship, and it can be healthy. Conflict can actually be healthy when it's done in a healthy way, when the communication is above board and it doesn't, shoot below the belt, and it gets to a place where each partner is hearing each other out without raising their voices, things of that nature, right? Conflict can be healthy, but it's like, you want someone to argue with you? I don't know. We'll see. But Mike said, well, that won't be an issue in this relationship. And then Jasmina made a look. I was like, I don't know what's happening here. But we see later on what happens. Okay. So Michael serves her breakfast in bed, and we find out fast that Michael likes black coffee and Jasmina does not. Jasmina meets Michael's sisters, and I just don't understand why production does this. Like, why do they ask the family members to ask the spouse if they consummated the marriage? That's just so cringy. Let's not. But they asked, and she said no, and I didn't think that would happen. And they also agreed that, Michael's a gentleman, and that, he would wait till she was comfortable. So Jasmina asked about, like, how Michael handles anger, like when he gets upset. And so one of the sisters said, well, he just gets up, he walks off, cools down, comes back. The other sister says, well, sometimes he has a tendency to focus on the negative and assume the worst. And I'm like, what is happening? I just want families to lead with strengths, please, please. But no, that does not occur here. And Jasmina's like, her antenna goes up. You see this. But I kind of see how that makes sense for Michael, because he has experienced a lot of loss in his family. He's experienced so much loss with the loss of his parents and the murder of his brother. And so he's like, things happen, and you have to be prepared for it. That's the way he protects himself. And it seems like potentially Jasmina, the way she protects herself is by thinking everything will work out. And that's not the case. So there's a middle. There's somewhere in the middle. They seem to be in a place of extremes, and in marriage, and truly is walking that balance of those extremes, and meeting in the middle, and finding safety in the middle with each other and with yourself. And so hopefully they get there. So then we find out that all of her relationships are long distance, and this is interesting. I mean, Jasmine is a gorgeous girl. Not saying that people who have long distance relationships are not attractive. It's stating that it seems to be her preference. That is my concern. Like, if that's her preference for long distance relationships, or that, and like, what are the factors? I'm curious. I'm just curious. We don't know a lot of information. She just said that all of her relationships have been long distance, and that is a concern, just because it seems that maybe this may be a way she's protecting herself by creating distance in her relationships because of her abandonment that she's experienced through her life from her parents. So we'll see how this goes and how this relationship goes. It also seems that potentially this could be kind of also why she's picking fights, as we see in the honeymoon. So Michael meets Jasmina's stepmother and her sisters, and I love the stepmother. So stepmother saying, Jasmina's seen a marriage that works and a marriage that didn't, so she has that. She's like, do you have do you have a healthy model of a relationship, or do you know what a relationship looks like? He's like, I don't actually, he's like, I was raised by my mother and my sister, so I don't have that. And so she said, that's concerning, but also your relationship with your mother and your sisters could also prepare you for it. And she said, well, you seem nice. She said, but my antennas are still up, and I appreciate that. It seems sometimes that the family is always so welcoming of someone when they've just met them, and really the truth is in putting how someone is by their behavior and how they show up. And so like, you're nice. We'll see if we continue to see how you treat my daughter. And Michael's picking that up, and so he is stating that he's going to prove himself. So that's let's see. But that's encouraging. It's great that he wants to prove himself to be the best husband for Jasmina. So we see in the honeymoon, they're between Jasmina and Michael. They are sipping drinks in the room after all the couples have met for drinks, and she was taken back. She was taken back by the conflict in the group, and saying like, I'm just so surprised. It's the first day that we all got together, and we're just and we had a conflict. And Michael's like, well, it's to be expected. We don't know each other. You rubbed the wrong way, and it's to be expected. And then Jasmina says, well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like, why would you expect conflict to happen? I'm like, oh no, you're grabbing what the sister said and now making this a situation. I think what Michael said was completely accurate. You don't know each other, and so you're going to cross boundaries. There's going to be some bumping of heads, as we see in this situation. It was funny. It was like, are we fighting about what we're talking about right now? There's not going to be conflict, and it's like, but now there's conflict. I'm hoping that Jasmina will be able to have an ear to hear him, but it doesn't seem that Jasmina has that temperament. It seems like maybe she's a little fiery, and maybe that's why has the title No Nonsense. So we'll see how Michael navigates these waters. He did say, well, I'm not surprised about this conflict, and so we're gonna see, if I'm up to the challenge. And I'm like, wait a second. Again, there's this question he has, like, am I up for this? Am I going to continue to be in this marriage? So this is gonna be a interesting journey with both of them, because again, I truly believe that Jasmine is going to need that emotional security from Michael to be in this relationship. But also, Jasmina is going to have to be able to trust the process and to trust herself to make the best decision for this marriage. If Michael really hasn't shown, anything out of pocket, he's calm, he's reserved so far, and so this argument coming out of nowhere and kind of staying rooted and grounded, well, we're just going to have to agree to disagree, isn't the way that conflict can be healthy. I think that there is a way to agree to disagree, but there's also a way to hear each other out and to understand what the other person's saying. And it seems like that it may be an area of growth for Jasmina. So we'll see how that goes. So next we have Olajuwon and Katina, and they are hilarious to me. As Olajuwon said, okay, I guess I need to work on my cuddle game, and then tells her that, well, it's great that your morning breath doesn't stink. He just says everything that comes to his mind. And then Olajuwon and Katina both start sharing their past. Whew. Okay, so Olajuwon, he starts to kind of downplay his past a little bit with Katina when it was talking to his family members or the other gentlemen of the cast. He was like, I'm the Facebook crook. I was Isaac. I was out here. And now with Katina, he's like, well, it's not that I was actually cheating. I never really was in a relationship like that. But so then I'm like, how were you disrespecting women if you were being upfront and honest with them? So he is downplaying his behavior, because he's definitely wanting Katina to receive this information and not be alarmed by it. And then she starts talking about how she has also had some behavior of the same nature as well. And but I do feel that both of them have put their antennas up about their past. And so, I know that with communication in marriage, it is best to have things out in the open, and at the same time you want to be a little cautious about what you share, because you want to protect your marriage. You may not want to share all the details of your past, but be honest about it, right? Not withholding, but also protect your marriage to a point where your spouse isn't wondering, like, so I wonder how many people, like, I wonder what is she looking at him? Like, there should be some security. So I feel like both of them are in a place where they're both having their antennas up and thinking about how their past is going to affect their future. So Olajuwon meets Katina's friends, and thank goodness that her mother is not present because she was not nice to him. And then we see that Katina meets Olajuwon's second mom, and she says, that she feels that Olajuwon is coming in the situation with the right attitude, that because Katina's concerned and said, well, do you feel like Olajuwon is ready to be a one-woman man? And she's like, well, she didn't really answer yes, but she said she feels like he's going into the marriage with the right attitude. We shall see. But actions, Katina, no matter what, actions are going to be the thing that shows you if he's ready. So, she gives her a gift, which is very sweet, saying that, I've been his cheerleader, and now it's your turn to be his cheerleader, as you're his wife. I felt some interesting energy around that. I feel like she's saying, he's your responsibility now, girl. Like, I'm tired. Because Olajuwon is a lot to manage. He's a big personality. He's a little rough around the edges. He's very impulsive. He says things that can rub people the wrong way. And we find that out when we get back to him meeting Katina's friends. And Olajuwon, tells her friends, that, hey, I'm trying something new, with marriage. And Katina's friend, Jelani, does not let him even finish his statement. Trying something new. Like, wait, what is this? When you're married, you're making a commitment. You're making a decision, which is true. So I feel like Olajuwon wasn't being mindful about this meeting. He wasn't dressed properly. He didn't come with the right attitude, and I don't know if he has met. It doesn't seem like he's ever met anyone's parents before or anyone's family before. Is he doesn't know how to present himself in this way. I don't know if also his ADHD might have an effect on this, because it's a little challenging for him to be able to get his thoughts together, to be mindful about what he's saying as he's saying it. But he said, hey, if you see anything out of pocket, just call me out on it. And it seems like that's kind of how his family and his friends treat him. Like, it's not that he makes a decision to do right or wrong, but he has other people like managing him, and he's going to have to really work on managing his behavior and thinking before he speaks, and thinking about how he shows up and how that impacts other people. So he's going to have to be a little bit more aware of that. So Olajuwon and Katina, they meet up after the brunch. They have a little difference of opinion about Katina's friend, because she said, hey, I value his opinion, and so I'm going to check him out. And Olajuwon says, I just think he didn't like me. And so, that's that. He didn't want to give me a chance. I feel like her friend truly does have some reasons to have some pause about Olajuwon. He doesn't always present at the best light. I feel like Olajuwon does have some characteristics that are redeemable, and at the same time he is his carefree self. So we shall see. So after the next scene that we see with Olajuwon and Katina is the plane situation. And then I also watched the after party, and so we got more details about it. And so Olajuwon says that Lindsay is asking Olajuwon if he knows Spanish, and he says a little bit, but I'm going to speak English. She's like, well, you're in the native land, you need to speak Spanish. And he's like, no. How about you just tell Mark how to conduct his language, and I'll speak the language that I want to speak. And that became a situation where she was like, well, I'm going to beat you up. And I think this is a case of two people who both really don't hold their tongue, duking it out. For sure. I do also think there are some cultural factors into play as well. So it's a little interesting that the situation with Lindsay and Olajuwon was not caught on camera. So we don't know who said what, and they both have a different account for it. I think it was great how Olajuwon handled it with Mark once they got to the resort, and they had the drinks and kind of squashed it. Katina, she was still pretty upset about the situation. And, once they got back to the room, Olajuwon said, hey, we're just going to keep moving forward. We're not going to keep the conflict going. We squashed it. Let's move on. Let's just continue to have fun. Then he kind of calls Katina out and states that she has her walls up, and she is like, hey, you're pressing me. I'm going to keep my guard up, because you never know about people. He's like, I'm not people. I'm your husband. I feel like Olajuwon truly wants her to be open because he's open. He's like, meet me where I'm at. And at the same time, she has every right to have some concerns and every right to be moving cautious. This is just day 2. Like, they got married, they woke up, they found out they were going to Puerto Rico, and now they're in Puerto Rico. Like, let's give it some time, Olajuwon. I'm hoping he can get some patience. He wants people to have patience with him. He's going to need to have patience with Katina. Next, we have Mark and Lindsay. So, Mark and Lindsay, we see them open up, and they're talking about their relationships with their mother. Mark's mother has depression and is struggling, to take care of herself due to that, and Mark provides a lot of support for her in that way. And then Lindsay shares her story and her connection with her mother, and about her rejection of her mother and not wanting to come to the wedding. And so this is an area where they both bond in, and Lindsay shares that she's going to, definitely help Mark and support him in taking care of his mother. And so Mark is definitely reassured by that, and he says that he sees that they have a lot in common, and so he's getting some comfort in riding these kind of treacherous waters that Lindsay can bring to their relationship. Lindsay meets Mark's friends, and I am nervous, but she handles it well. She didn't say anything. She didn't put her foot in her mouth. At least the cameras didn't show that footage. She was nice, and I said, oh, she can do this. She can function like an adult and say things that won't hurt people's feelings. Even asked about how to support Mark with his relationship with his mother. And so I said, okay, Lindsay, you can do this. There's some hope for us yet. And then Mark meets Lindsay's father and her friends, and they give him a Lindsay survival kit. My goodness. This is hilarious and sad at the same time. I don't know. It seems like they're trying to tell him, you are in for a ride. I'm thinking, they did give him some tools, but I'm hoping with the no button and the granola bar. But I'm also hoping that they gave him some comforting things in there too, because this is going to be a lot for Mark, as he's such a sweet guy. Our dad says that, she's going to need to be, reeled in. I've told Lindsay that she's going to have to think before she speaks, and you're going to have to tell her to be quiet, and you're going to have to tell her to bring it down, because she's going to say and do things that are not okay. And Mark is as a deer with headlights. His eyes are just bugged, like, that is not who I am. You can tell Mark is not the type of guy who's setting boundaries, who's saying you can't do something. Like, that is not something that comes natural to him. He's kind of a roll with the flow kind of guy. So this is going to be a issue in their relationship for sure. Mark's going to have to get comfortable with setting boundaries, and Lindsay's going to have to accept them. In order for this connection to continue to kind of blossom. It seems like it's there. Lindsay's definitely smitten, but Mark is in peacemaker mode. Yeah, Mark is definitely going to have to talk to his people-pleasing part, or his accommodating part. That's really what it is. His accommodating part, he likes to be accommodating and be whatever someone needs, and he's going to have to kind of negotiate that within himself to grow in the area of assertiveness. Mark and Lindsay meet up after meeting each other's family and friends, and Lindsay's concerned about, what did my dad say? Because she knows her dad is not going to hold punches, as he didn't even on the wedding day. And Mark shares the Lindsay survival kit and the no button, and she wants to hit the no button. I'm like, no, Mark needs to hit the no button. You need to listen to the no button. So next, we see that Mark has to jump in as Lindsay and Katina and Olajuwon are in a disagreement. Again, we find out that she was being loud on the plane. The stewardess had to ask her to be quiet and put your mask put your mask on or keep your mask on, ma'am. So I don't know if she was drinking or not. I know that at her wedding day she was, so I would imagine potentially that she was. Don't want to assume the worst, but I also want to think about maybe the different factors that were happening in the situation. I really feel like Lindsay wasn't thinking clearly when she was speaking, to Olajuwon, and I feel like she just needs to be more mindful when she's meeting new people. Yes, we're all cast and we're all together, and yes, you say these brash things, and at the same time, you need to just be more cautious. She needs to be more cautious about engaging with others and knowing what to say and what not to say. And so Mark handles the situation. He has them go on a separate bus so they can have time apart to cool down. And then she stays up in her room, and he comes down and meets with the rest of the cast and kind of squashes things, apologizes for her. But I feel like this is just going to be a pattern that Mark is going to constantly have to do. He's going to have to constantly be apologizing for Lindsay because she is going to continue to do these things. But Lindsay is smitten. I feel like all of her unhealed boxes of like having this corrective dad who's telling her not to do this and not to do that, and this mother who has rejected her. She's like, Mark accepts me for who I am, and then he comes to my rescue and tells me he has my back. So I think once Mark starts to correct her, that's when we'll see the conflict in this relationship. And I don't believe that Lindsay's going to be able to really handle the correction, because it's going to feel very familiar for her, and it's going to feel like rejection. But we'll see how this goes. Last but not least, or maybe they are least, we have Chris and Alyssa. This makes me so sad. This just makes me so sad. So Alyssa is refusing to sleep in the same room as Chris and not giving him any clarity. I just heard some things, and I don't really want to talk about it. And he's like, can you give me something? Do you want to talk off camera? No. And I'm like, this is such a torturous thing. How could you not give this man any feedback about what he did or what was said to make you feel that you're not comfortable enough to sleep in the same room with him? Because that's a huge decision, especially in an experiment like this. And so I'm sure that he was anxious and so much turmoil without having that information, especially since he's so focused on pleasing her. He was so focused on making her feel comfortable, and the one thing that she was not was comfortable. So Chris then lets us know that, at 2 a.m. they do sit down, and she did tell him about what his friend said, and that she is, that they just didn't vibe well. And the next day she's saying she's still just not comfortable. She's not comfortable. We did find out at the after party that she had a previous relationship that was a bit traumatic for her. And so the language of saying that he was condescending really put her on alarm. I get it. I do get it. And at the same time, though, Alyssa, I feel like there has to be some kind of middle ground. You don't know this man, and it seems like she's not attracted to him, but she doesn't want to say that. And because of that, plus the condescending comment, it's like, okay, I was gonna potentially try this out, but then your friends tell me you're condescending, it's over. That's really where I feel Alyssa is, and I really wish she would just tell him. So Chris said that, he's worried that she's checked out, and she is. And Alyssa seems to feel like everything is an attack, which, she seems to be very defensive, and states that, he's worried that she's not in it for the right reasons. And I don't know if she's not in it for the right reasons. I just feel like she expected perfection. She expected what she wanted, and when she didn't get it, and plus what his friend said combined, like having that cosign, that was it for her. And she's not willing to pull down her guard to get to know Chris. I mean, if it is his teeth, I mean, his teeth are fixable. That's a fixable thing. Chris is such an accommodating guy. Again, I feel too accommodating. As Alyssa's saying that she still wants to go through this process, even though she doesn't. Chris agrees to do so, and he meets with Alyssa's mom and friend and tells them Alyssa's concerns. And Alyssa's friend kind of lets the cat out of the bag. She says she can be a bit rash and harsh in her reactions, and to just keep giving it time. His mother says that, hey, I really feel like Chris is the kind of man that Alyssa needs. And I really think, and I really hope that she can soften her response to him and really get to know him. But I don't think that's going to happen. Chris says, well, if she's 1% in, then I'm all in. And I said, oh no, that's not how a marriage works. I get what he's saying, that, if she's open to trying, then I'm ready to give it. But 1% in, you need more than that. You need more than that to make this marriage work, especially in this kind of situation where you're meeting a stranger, and you need to kind of be willing to work on the relationship and call on parts of you that you haven't had to before in order to push through and make the connection and see if the connection will develop. But Alyssa's not there. She's not there. Alyssa meets Chris' mom and friends, and Chris' mother said, well, from the beginning, it really seems like, it's a perfect match. I'm like, oh no, it's not. It's not, Mom. Alyssa said, I just don't know where to start. It's like she didn't even have any questions prepared. This is like another kind of evidence that she is not really in this anymore. She doesn't even want to know anything about Chris, or want to know any tools of how to get to know him, if they have any interest, or how to work with Chris's personality or anything. She doesn't want to know. And then what does Chris' friend do again? This is a new friend, but he starts to tell her about his work schedule. And I'm like, I get it. Real estate agents have to do a lot of work. They do. But what Alyssa hears is, I'm going to come second. I'm like, no, just everything you hear is negative. Everything you hear. I feel like Chris will be able to massage his work schedule. This is him seeing him as a single person. You have to massage your work schedule to make a relationship work. I feel like Chris will do that. He is so concerned about making Alyssa comfortable that he will do that. So I feel like this is a case where the friends are leading with their concerns versus leading with the person's strengths. Chris asked Alyssa after they shared that they're going to Puerto Rico, and they opened the basket. Yay, Puerto Rico. How do you feel about traveling with the other couples? And Alyssa says, well, yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting with them. Instead of, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing how this relationship could maybe grow through our experiences in Puerto Rico. And then Chris asks, well, maybe we can have some time together away. And she said, sure. And I'm like, just be truthful. I want Alyssa to be truthful. I want her to be truthful. I feel like no matter what, Alyssa's going to have something to say about what Chris does, that he is already dead in the water with her. Because first he's trying to offer like, hey, let's do this, or let's do this when we're in Puerto Rico. And then she's like, well, no, I just want to be on the beach. Okay, sure, we'll be on the beach. And then she's like, well, he's yesing me to death. I'm like, oh my God. He's yesing me to death? Okay. so they get to Puerto Rico after the debacle happens, and Alyssa and Chris are really not engaging with each other. They're both engaging with Puerto Rico and the sights, and Chris is kind of over there and looking at her, but there's a lot of distance. And so Chris kind of checks in with her to see, like, hey, you said you're open to the process and you're going to see how this goes, but are you really? And Alyssa starts to become defensive again, and she says that Mark is lying when he tells her that he doesn't feel like she's committed to the process, and she's like, I am trying, and I'm like, I had like a flashback of Haley last season, and I don't know if maybe she does feel like she's trying. It just, from how it looks, I don't see much effort. I just see effort to maybe not hurt his feelings. But at the end, with withholding truth, it does hurt his feelings, because it's like disrespecting him. Truly, just say it. So she did state that, hey, it's not going to work. Let's just keep it peaceful. It's not going to work. Let's just not continue to argue. But I really hope that they can potentially just end the season and early, and not continue on with this kind of roller coaster that happens, because she's not in it. It would be torturous for Chris to have to go through the next 8 weeks when this woman has already made up her mind that she doesn't want to be in a relationship with him. So we'll see how the next episode goes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts about these couples and the interactions you're seeing, and what you feel could be helpful to get these couples where they need to be in order to make their marriages last, hopefully, for at least 4 of them. And please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Peace.